I'm Jessica Vieira, Executive Director of the Greater Wasilla Chamber of Commerce. Over the last week, I've had the opportunity to interview the Greater Wasilla area MatSu Borough Assembly candidates. Our Government Affairs Committee has curated a list of questions they felt were important to businesses in the Greater Wasilla area and the MatSu Valley as a whole. We greatly appreciate each of the candidates' time coming in and interviewing with us, and we hope this helps all of our area residents be informed voters as they head to the polls this year. Okay, thank you, Clayton, for joining me here today. To begin, can you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
Okay, yep, my name is Clayton too. I go by Moki. I came out to the Valley in about 2000. I actually came to Alaska in '79. I go by Moki. I started doing road maintenance for the borough, plowing roads and I don't know, putting culverts in, just road maintenance there for a while. And I've raised my kids out here, Richard and Ben and Jennifer, and two of them still live here with me, or up on Big Beaver Lake is where we live. And let's see, I work for the borough doing trash. I've been married to my wife for 35 years. And working for the borough, I've seen a lot of stuff go on that we could save a lot of money doing. Trash is a good one. The trash here in the Valley costs like $136 a ton to get rid of. It costs $50 a ton in Anchorage. It costs $20 a ton in Kenai. And it costs like $43 a ton in Orange County, California. So I can see how we could save a lot of money there. And then also on the road maintenance program, and then also on the bidding process to make it a fair and open bid for everybody to bid versus kind of refined for certain vendors.
Okay, our first question is, what is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
I think either one's okay, and I can work with either one. I like the idea of a strong manager because he has to answer to the assembly. But on the other hand, a strong mayor would have to answer to all the folks so they can either vote him in or vote him out. So I can work with either or.
All right, our second question is, what do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
Well, I think the borough holds a big role in that because they're the ones that actually have the horsepower to make things move. I think we need to work hard on any natural resource that we can pull out and put into making jobs and making money for our community. I think we need to do that, and of course the borough has all the control of that. The borough also has control of the port, the rail, any of these things. The borough has the control to make that happen. So they have a very powerful role in the future.
Okay, our third question is, what relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
I think the transparency between contractors and the borough and the community and the borough, they need to be more transparent with what they're doing. And I would just do that by opening up the books and speaking with the folks.
Okay, question 4. Of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
Okay, so the borough has a lot of issues, but I think transparency and honesty to the citizens and the contractors and all the business that the borough does is probably one of the big factors that they really do have. So I would be definitely way more transparent. I would be totally transparent to all the citizens and contractors. And then I think we need to develop jobs here. And when those contractors come in and develop jobs, I would be way transparent to those folks also. And then I think think that's probably, and then their tax bills. I don't, when I go out campaigning, everybody's yelling that their house is worth 10 times the amount this year than it was 5 years ago. So, you know, that's the borough just taking more money from us. That doesn't need to happen. So I'd look into that and find out what's going on and why do we need so much money? Are we building an empire over in Palmer? If so, then maybe we need to reduce that.
All right, thank you, Lisa, for joining me here today. To begin, could you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
I sure can. My name is Lisa Behrens. I came to Alaska in 1987, so I'm a 33-year Alaskan. And I worked for Alaska Magazine for a couple of years. I got my private pilot's license, and in the process of doing that, discovered I had an aptitude for aviation and air traffic control. So I spent 16 years as an air traffic controller. And in the middle of that, I accepted a hospice volunteer assignment and ended up coming out to Big Lake. And that was in 1997, and I've been a resident of District 5 ever since. I got there and decided this is my forever home. So that's the history of how I came here. At the time that I moved, I was still an air traffic controller, but then I joined our local ambulance squad. And I actually ended up leaving air traffic control a little bit early to go to my second career in full-time emergency medical services. So I ran as an EMT and then a paramedic, and then the last 2 years of my EMS career, from 2015 to 2017, I was actually the division deputy director for the entire EMS system for the MatSu Borough. So that's where I feel my valuable background experience comes from. And currently I'm a healthcare educator for University of Alaska at our MatSu College.
Okay, our first question is, what is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
That is one of the top questions that I have been hearing. That comes to me very often as I've been out meeting and talking to voters. My own stance is I can see pros and cons both ways. And I can't really say that I've made a firm decision about which one I think is better. And I believe that my job as an assembly person is to learn what is important and what the, how that shakes out for the people in my district. And then that is the direction that I need to follow.
Okay, question 2. What do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
I see the MatSu Borough Assembly as having a very pivotal role in those topics. And that's also can be seen as a controversial role. There are people who love the good old days that want minimum zoning, minimum regulations, and maximum property owner freedoms. And then there are people that want to be able to attract business to the MatSu Borough, and things like that, zoning, planning, economic vision factors into that. How does the borough move forward in being able to generate revenue and encourage businesses to come in? There again, that's a thing for me to find what's the sentiment and what's the concerns of the people in my district. One thing I do reflect back to is that I think in 2010 there was an economic development plan that the Assembly worked on. The reports are still there on the MatSu Borough webpage, and it seems like there's been quite a gap since there was a lot of activity and attention paid to that. Granted, a lot of serious things are happening right now, so that's that's understandable. But I think that's another thing to look into and see where we've been, how far we got, and then what the best way forward is.
Okay, question 3. What relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
As an assembly person, the primary relationship is with the constituents in my district. It's my business to make sure that I have contact, I maintain accessibility and transparency with those people. The next relationships that are important are with the other assembly members. I believe that the assembly needs to function as a 7-person team in the best interest of our borough as a whole. Each one of those people has specific knowledge of their own district, but we're really in it together to do what's best for the entire borough. Then there are additional relationships. I think an important one to me is, and being a healthcare person and still a healthcare educator, I want to develop a strong relationship with MatSu Health Foundation and the healthcare system in our area. There are some serious needs, particularly for mental health care, and having a good structure for caring for the citizens of our borough. Then additionally, there are the relationships with our state senators and legislators. Those are important relationships and can't be undervalued in how important it is to make them aware of what our needs are as a borough and make sure there's good continuous communication going back and forth.
Okay. All right, our final question is, of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
I would say that the one that I have the most control over is paying attention to our budget, how our taxpayer money is used, and how I keep the constituents in my district informed of how we're using their taxes. As I've been visiting with people and hearing what the concerns are from around my district, one of the common themes I hear is that people understand we have some lean years ahead of us. They said we understand that we need to share in the costs of that. And the one person in particular said, I know I need to pay taxes. However, I will not agree to pay additional taxes when I'm concerned that the ones I'm paying now are not being used wisely. And so want to look for those efficiencies in our budgeting process. Also want to continue with efforts that have been already started, such as the open checkbook, where taxpayers can literally look at what the borough is writing checks for, who is the money being paid to, what's it being used for, and improve taxpayer confidence that people are really taking their job seriously as assembly members and doing the very best stewardship that they can with people's money.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for joining us here today. To begin, could you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your history here in the Valley?
Okay, I'm a retired RN. I retired from the state. I've worked corrections, and then I finished my career up at the API. I've been in the Valley since August 31st, 1989, so I just finished my 31st anniversary here a couple of months ago. And I've been active in politics here for about the last 10 years. I've helped on some of the drives, like getting the school board put into districts. Besides the school board, we also got the election moved to November, which we thought was a great thing. That way more people would vote. And I've been pretty active with some of the groups in trying to keep taxes down and get our legislature to spend less money, that kind of thing we can call in. And lately, I've been here in the Valley just trying to work this out to where I know we're growing and we're going to have to, we can't be the Valley like when we used to sit down on Connect Gibbs Bay Road and watch the Iditarod go by, or down here at the airport, we used to start it there. And those days are gone, but we are going to have to step into the future. And I think we have a really bright future coming. We've got a lot of things going out here that we should be pushing and putting on. Our port, getting railroad line finished across there, things like that.
All right, our first question is, what is your stance on the strong mayor versus strong manager positions?
I like the strong mayor. The reason being that if you get the wrong mayor, say is what we've had happen in Anchorage here lately, you can, in 3 years, then you'll get a new person. Whereas with the strong manager, you have to get 4 people on the assembly to agree with you and then go through that again. So I'm really all in favor of the strong mayor. Okay. We've done that before too. That was part of one of my things that we failed on that. No, they didn't like it, but yeah, I've always been for the strong mayor.
All right, our second question is, what do you see as the MatSu Borough's role in planning and development?
There's some, and I really have, at times I have a hard time with this because I'm going, I see the junk cars and stuff where it's just filled up with it. And I think there should be some planning that needs to happen. I live in an area with covenants, that's why I bought there, so I can't say that, man, I planned it. But the thing at the same time is, I don't believe they should be telling you when you can cut a tree in your yard and when it gets to the extremes. So I would like to see us, forth, but I would like anything that's major, a plan or something, I believe that should come out to a vote of the people and should be discussed fully before it's ever implemented. That's one of my big things I'd like to see happen, is more planning and more, I guess, to broadcast it more, where you not only have meetings, but you actually put things out in printed material and what this will mean and what it won't, and then let folks make up their mind on it.
All right, our third question is, what relationships do you feel need to be strengthened, and how would you go about doing that?
I think what we need to do is get a really more uniform approach to going to the state. We've got a pretty decent legislative body now, as far as it goes. We need to strengthen that more, but I think we need to look more into like our economic development, the local economy. One thing, we could have these two ballots on this, or two elections on the same day and the same ballot. That's just a minor thing, and check and making sure that we get people down there to where we're not just lobbying or spending money on lobbyists, but we actually get the state to look at us like finishing this railroad line. If we do it with Canada as a possibility, fine. And our highways and our roads, getting those things upgraded. And that I think we can do with a little bit of, actually a lot of, I think, on especially our roads, local roads. I come from an area where we used to have a township board, and the county gave them money and they fixed the roads. Whereas here, every time we want a road improvement, we have to go with the borough and hopefully they'll okay it. And I'd like to see, a little bit of, more or less like a gen of the two, but to where the local RSA boards actually have some power, some say-so, and that kind of thing for the boards. State legislators, I believe it's going to be a long time. I mean, we're looking at least at 3 years of some pretty lean times. So I think we're going to have to really work with them and then make sure that what plans we have or improvements we want, that they're well thought out and, fiscally responsible to, not just bring in a $5 million a mile road when we could have done it for $1 million, things like that. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, question 4 is, of all the issues the MatSu Borough faces, what do you feel you have control over, and how will you go about correcting or improving said issues?
Well, I believe the one thing that we do have a lot of control over is, like I said, our road system, things that we can do for local roads. A few years ago, the Borough Assembly and then the mayor, like the Vine extension, when they ran that on through over to KTB, I think those are things that we can control. Social issues, not so much. I mean, I don't think that's really local government's business in a way. It's nice if we can, like if we develop a homeless problem or something, if we can work with like the ones that take care of the teens out here, those kinds of things. We might facilitate it if we have an old building that's not being used, and we could get them into something like that. But other than that, I think we need to look at infrastructure and the things that we can do to build our local economy up to where people don't necessarily have to make that commute to Anchorage every day. I mean, I did it for 7 or 8 years. It was a lot of fun. I did it on the weekends. It was safe. But that's what I'm saying. I think we can do that. We need to look at building our local economies, maybe supporting businesses here like the Chamber does, local businesses, and encouraging those people. The one thing I think we can control, and it's kind of one of my issues, is gun ranges. We are growing up big enough now that we cannot shoot in our backyard anymore. That's just not an option. And we'd like to have some more gun ranges where people aren't driving more than, especially here in the populated part of the valley, where they're not driving more than 15, 20 miles to a gun range. And that way we can also have some instructors there for safety issues and those kind of things. And that's what I feel the borough should be doing, is bringing everybody's quality of life up that way, is the little things that they can do, the road structures especially, and that's I think one of the best things, and most control we would have locally over that. So